Mike Prendergast, I suppose, Mike, France in a more severe lockdown than Ireland at the moment as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. Massive changes.
Yeah, huge changes. We've been in lockdown now for over a week here, which has been challenging, especially when you're in an apartment and you've no garden. But look, the most important thing is that we keep safe and healthy, So we're very aware of that. Obviously, from our point of view, everything is stopped. Last Friday week, we were told that we'd get a message over the weekend to see how we would train last week. And then over that weekend, we got a message basically saying that we couldn't come in, that Monday, from Monday on, that we'd have to stay at home, and obviously the players have to train individually as much as they can do. And there's actually a warning on it as well, that the club have been very transparent and sending all the information through to us on a regular basis, and they've actually advised the players not to train at 100% as well, to kind of train at 80%, because there can be that danger if you do have it unawarely that it can affect you. So the players at home doing as much as they can, which is frustrating, but it's the right way to do it, And everything is in lockdown here, and if you want to leave to get out, you can only get out for necessities, or if you have an appointment with a doctor or whatever it may be. So and they brought in new strict rules as well, that there's actually, you can be fined now up to €375, and I hear now that could be up towards maybe about €1,000. So there's a real lockdown, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I suppose, Mike, just looking at the rugby events that probably are going to take a massive hit this year, it seems highly unlikely that we'll get the Six Nations finished. I suppose national federations and unions will have to try to look after their own domestic leagues, their own domestic games, in whichever way they can, because that's the bread and butter, really, isn't it?
Yeah, look, everything is on hold for the moment. It's very unsure. That's the thing. We don't know what's ahead of us. Obviously, all the different unions. I know from the different unions in terms of the IRFU and the Welsh Union, the Scottish Union. They've cancelled all their domestic leagues. I know at home, obviously, the IRFU are usually they're insured up to, I think it's the end of May potentially. So obviously it's going to continue for another while. So that put a stop on that. I suppose we're in a small bit of a different scenario over here, that the top 14 has often gone on to July. So there's talks at the moment, potentially, depending how long this lasts for, that we might play into June and July if obviously we can get back training within whatever, maybe the next month or 6 weeks, but again, it's all very much up in the air. There's a lot of meetings going on. There's a lot of potential organisation, but look, nothing can be put in place until we find out more information and see how long this will last.
Yeah, and I suppose the possibility as well of a split in the French league, in order to get it ran off, with maybe the teams in contention for playoffs split into one group and the teams battling for the drop into another. That's another option, that maybe shortening the season but still having meaningful competition.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 suggestions that the clubs have sat down with the FFR, the different presidents and whatnot, and there's been a couple of suggestions. One being that the top 8 play in a playoff to win the top 14, and the bottom 6 playoff to stay in the top 14 effectively. So it'll be run over a number of weekends, potentially into late June, July. And maybe I saw somewhere where potentially that the Heineken Cup could be the same, if the Champions Cup, again, depending on time wise, but that could be played over 3 weekends as well, potentially before the top 14. But as I said, look, it's all very much up in the air, and I think the most important thing now is that people stay safe and stay in as much as possible, and abide to the rules that are there.
I suppose if you look at the table at the current standings, Bayonne in 9th and 33, down to Stade Francais in 14th and 25. There's only 8 points between them. So if it was to go that way, you'd have a very tough relegation group there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've teams like Po who's down there as well. Obviously, Stade Francais had a tough start to the league. They've improved kind of after Christmas, even though they're at the bottom, but the other teams have been picking up a few wins as well. So, yeah, there's big teams, big names in there, and it's a massive thing for those clubs to stay in the top 14. And if there is that bottom six playoff, it'll be very interesting, and it'll be challenging for those teams as well. Because as you know, in the top 14, just if you are obviously relegated to go into Pro D2, Pro D2 is a different competition, very tough competition, 16 teams, and it's a hard division to get out of. So for the big clubs, especially something like Stade Francais, it's a massive name, it's a huge club, and I'm sure they'll be doing everything they can to stay in the division, provided this goes ahead. There was another suggestion then the other day that if the games don't be played off, that potentially there could be a top 16 next season, with two teams coming up from Pro D2. As it stands, you have Colombia who are leading it and Perpignan second. So it's actually those two clubs that would join the top 14
if
next
they were
year.
going to go to a top 16, Mike, could you see them maybe splitting it into two conferences of 8? Would it make it more manageable along a Pro 14 style setup then? I mean, if you go to 16 teams, that's you're adding in. France already has a lot of matches. I think 26 matches. If
26 games.
If you add in two more teams, now you're starting to bring it up like the amount of games you'd have in a soccer season. Take away the European matches, and you're slowly creeping up.
Yeah, no, it will be, and it'll be very taxing. And I think obviously with the financial implications after all of this as well, I would imagine that the squads could be smaller as well. So it'll put more pressure on your squad. So. I don't know, being honest, I think the first year they'll play it out as a top 16. If it is to go down that route, they'll play it out as a top 16 as is. And potentially then after that, look at if it is too taxing on teams and on players, that, obviously if there's more injuries and whatnot, because there's more games, that'll all have a knock-on effect. But I'm not sure as of the moment, I would imagine top 16, it'll be just one league played off and then they'll assess from there, I imagine.
And of course, the advantage or the difference, I suppose, in when you're dealing with the top 14 as opposed to the Pro 14 is that you're dealing with one administration, one government, one policy. If you look at the makeup of the Pro 14, you've Italy, South Africa, and the UK teams from all those regions, all those governing jurisdictions. It means that the Pro 14 organisers have a huge task on their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. For the top 14, it's, as you said, it's easier. We're all in one country as well. If the opportunity or there is a window potentially to play off at the end of the season, it's a lot easier for obvious reasons in terms of travel and whatnot. But with the Pro 14, you have a makeup of different unions and bodies, and that's a bigger challenge, I suppose, for everyone to agree on a certain opportunity or whatever that may be presented, So yeah, the challenges for them is a lot bigger. I suppose it's the same for the Gallagher Premiership in England. You've everything is played under the RFU there, so to make decisions will be easier. For the Pro 14, it will be more challenging, absolutely.
And finally, Mike, I suppose, look, we all love sport. If you're not involved in a Saturday or a weekend or a day off, I'm sure you're flicking through the channels to see what else is going on, be it sport at home, be it sport, be it soccer, football, or whatever you can kind of get time to watch. We really, really don't realise how important it is until it's been taken like this.
Yeah, until the rug is pulled from under your feet, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. It's you'd miss it massively. I suppose being involved in it, or as you said, even if we're playing on a Sunday and I'm home on a Saturday, I'd love to sit down and watch. And then obviously during the summer to watch your GA and everything as well, and soccer games here and there. Every sport is brings its own advantages and whatnot, and when it's not there, you really realise that now is the moment that a lot of people are spending more time at home, especially over here with home for 24 hours a day, and it just shows how important it is to ourselves, and how much enjoyment we get out of it, and what pleasure it can be, and sport is a thing that brings so many people together, and unfortunately, as of at the moment, it's not there. You can't even, as you said, you can't even watch it. But look, as I said, the most important thing is that people are staying at home and abiding to what's been told to them, and hopefully, this won't last, on too long. So all going well.